Are you comparing stuff again?
Yes.
Why do you always compare things?
I don't know. I'm told it's in my blood that I had at least as far back as my great grandfather. He was like obsessed with comparing the number of things to the number of other things. I think his name was Raymond Shio.
Raymond Shio?
Yeah, everybody called him Ray.
Ratio?
Yeah, Ray Shio. He was always comparing the number of one item to the number of another item. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I'm doing now. You want to come look? What I was doing, I was comparing the number of nickels to the number of pennies that were in the penny jar. And our penny jar does not discriminate. So our penny jar accepts any denomination of coin or paper bill. What I was doing in this case, I only have 6 nickels and 12 pennies in the penny jar. But I was looking at it and I was thinking, okay, well, 6 nickels compared to 12 pennies is the same as just having a fraction. So I have 6 nickels and 12 pennies. I basically have a fraction. I have a ratio. I've compared the number of nickels to the number of pennies. Now I can also show that in a different way, several different ways, but here's one way. Let's say I divide each group of nickels up equally and I divide each of the pennies up equally. Well, I can move my nickels like this and divide them into 6 equal groups. And then I can do the same with the pennies. I can divide all of my pennies up into equal groups along with the nickels, and I can still be comparing nickels to pennies. Now, I'm still comparing how many nickels I have to how many pennies, except this time I have 1 nickel for every 2 pennies. 1 nickel for 2 pennies, 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 and 1 nickel for 2 pennies. So I started with 6 nickels and 12 pennies, and I ended up dividing them out and got 1 nickel for every 2 pennies. And what this tells me or shows me is that I have the same value fraction just represented with different numbers. 6/12 is equal to 1/2. It's the same as 1/2. 1 nickel, 2 pennies. 1 nickel, 2 pennies, and so on. So if I take 6 and divide it into 6 equal groups, the nickels, and then I take my 12 pennies and I also divide them into 6 equal groups, 6 divided by 6 equals 1. 12 divided by 6 equals 2. So 1/2 is the same as 6/12 because I have 6 nickels compared to 12 pennies. You know what? I think we actually have a very small clip of my great grandfather actually comparing something. In fact, it's the only footage or photos that we have of him. Would you like to go see it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's go. This time, I want to compare how many nickels I have to the total number of coins, which is a little bit different, but I can still compare one quantity to another quantity. So what I'm going to do is compare how many nickels I have. So I have 6 nickels compared to how many total coins do I have? Well, I have 6 nickels and I have 12 pennies. So I have a total of 18 coins. So 6 nickels compared to the total number of coins here. And what I can do is, when I compare these two things, I can divide up my nickels. Since I want to know how many nickels I have for compared to the number of coins, I want to divide my nickels up. So let's divide our nickels up, since that's our numerator. Now I've divided my nickels up into equal groups. I have 6 equal groups of nickels. Now let's do the same thing with our pennies and line them up with the nickels, since that's what I want to compare to. I've lined up all of my nickels to the pennies. And you'll see I have 1 nickel to each 2 pennies I have. So 1 nickel to every 2 pennies. However, I wasn't comparing nickels to pennies. I was comparing nickels to coins. So we have to be careful here. For every nickel, how many coins are there? There's 3. 1, 2, 3. So for every nickel, I have 2 coins. 1 nickel. Did I say 3? Did I say 2? I think I said 2. To 3 coins. 1 nickel to 3 coins. 1 nickel to 3 coins. It's getting very crowded over here. It's never too crowded with money though. 1 nickel to 3 coins. And so on. That's my comparison of the number of nickels to the number of coins. So my ratio of 6/18 or 6/18 is equal to 1/3 or 1/3. And I can also demonstrate that by finding a common factor, which would be 6. I divided each of these up into 6 different groups. In this case, 6 equal groups. 6 divided by 6 is 1, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So I have just shown you that 6/18 and 1/3 are equivalent, or the same amount, same value.